What's up, people? James from Lucrative MMA, back to drop some more knowledge on you. Today, I'm going to be doing the full card breakdown, the recap video like I do every single week, talking about the card that just went, TJ Dillashaw versus Cory Sandhagen. Solid card, one of the best cards of the year, in my opinion. Solid main event, but we'll get to that as we come. As you guys know, I'm a professional sports bettor. I make my money by betting on MMA. If you've been watching me for a while, you will know that we are up a crazy amount of money this year. We had another good event. This event was a good event for us. We won about 6.6 units, all third-party tracked on betmma.tips, so I cannot fake my record like a lot of the other scam decappers and the fake people in the business, right? This business is rife with bullshit, fake scam artists that just want to take your money. So if you are ever looking to sign up with a handicapper like myself, what I would do is go to my YouTube channel. I put out a video about a month and a half ago. I think the title of the video is called 3 Ways to Tell If a Sports Betting Handicapper is Not to Be Trusted, right? Go watch that video. It's like 10 minutes long. It will save you a lot of invaluable time, effort, stress, and money, because I do get messages quite often saying I've been scammed by this guy, I've been scammed by this guy. And even in the MMA betting industry, there's a lot of scammers as well. So definitely don't get scammed, because you'll feel like an idiot, right? But anyway, I'll go in this card. If you did want to sign up with me, as always, the links are in the bio, lucrativemmabetting.com. You will earn money by signing up with me and watching MMA. You get paid to watch MMA. That's basically what it is. It's a pretty good life. So I'm going to carry on. I'm going to start from the start. If any of you are in the chat, hit me up. I can see my boy Narco Cop is in there right now. What's up, bro? I think you had a good event. I saw Z posting a couple of times. He was sharp on a few reads. We was on the same reads on a couple of them. Was also on that Harnish read with you, which I'll get to. Bad read there from us, but we smashed the card other than that. So, yeah, we'll crack on. So the first fight of the night, Diana Belbita versus Hannah Goldie. Look, I didn't watch this fight too much. I was actually setting up my MacBook. I bought a MacBook, so I was setting that up as it was going on. I guess the hardcores are going to be shouting at me, but yeah, sorry. First fight of the night, it was like 8 a.m. here in New Zealand, so I wasn't like fixed to the screen. Obviously, I saw bits and pieces. I saw Goldie get knocked down. I saw Goldie get hurt a few times, and I saw Belbita rushing like an absolute mad woman, get taken down and stuff. So yeah, a bit of a shit show of a fight. Pretty happy I avoided the fight, in my opinion. I mean, pick 'em line. Yeah, if you got a Belbita plus 150, I guess that was a good bet. These are the type of fights I avoid most of the time, right? If there's value on the line, like, of course, if someone's plus 200, plus 220 or whatnot, plus 170, plus 150 even, I may jump on. But, when I saw the line, it was like plus 120 Belbita. I'm like, you know what, man, I'm not even going to bother going too deep on this fight. When I did watch it, I was like, yeah, Belbita, I guess, could potentially make her a slight favorite. But, at the same time, we've seen the worst fight IQ in the world. Maybe Goldie can capitalize on that. She did capitalize on that a couple of times, but obviously Belbita managed to just win the decision overall. Yeah, moving on, guys. Sajara Eubanks versus Elise Reed. So obviously this was a mismatch, and what happens in MMA is when there are mismatches, you have to take advantage, right? So I actually had Sajara Eubanks in a parlay with a fighter we have later on in the card, which I'll talk about. And I had 7.5 units on that parlay, right? So it was a massive, massive bet for me, right? Most of you know, if you've been following me on my Twitter, I post it quite regularly. Anytime I do a big bet, I post my big bet record, right? My big bet record is 25-0, right? So 25 wins, no losses. And what I mean by big bet is anything over 5 units, right? So anytime I've placed a bet over 5 units, and I've done that 25 times, they've won. I have never lost a bet over 5 units. This was another bet, right? So I was putting my 24-0 record on a line here, and I was putting it on a line with a mismatch. So I wasn't at all worried about this fight. In hindsight, I should have paid Sarge inside the distance, but when you've got 7.5 units on it, I wasn't just clucking to pull the trigger on the inside the distance play, because I already had a large wager on the money line. But, in hindsight, definitely a good bet. It was a mismatch. A lot of times in MMA, when you get mismatches, finishes just occur, right? They just happen. Like, even if the fight is not a finisher. I remember one of my most chalky max bet of all time, right? And it was still only like minus 300. Like, I'm not betting minus 800s on max bets, right? But this year, I believe it was in January or something. I think it was in January, yeah. Ricky Simone was like minus 300, right? I put like 11 units on him because he was just going to dominate his opponent. Ricky Simón is a decision fighter, right? But he ended up getting a second round stoppage. Reason is because it was a mismatch. Even though he's a decision fighter, he never stops anyone, Ricky Simón. Same thing with Sarge. She never stops anyone. But obviously, if it's a complete mismatch, then you're probably going to get stopped. So, hindsight, definitely inside the distance play, plus money, always a good bet there. But yeah, I'm very happy to cash that money. Very easy as well. Elise Reed, she's paid the price for getting into the UFC, got beat up a bit. Now she'll move on. Now she'll get someone in her own weight class. She'll get someone with a full camp. And I do believe we'll see a much improved version of Elise Reed, right? I don't think she's a bad fighter. I just think she was physically and, skillfully outmatched here, unfortunately, right? But definitely physically, because it's upper weight class and Sarge was coming down a weight class, right? And it's against a wrestler. So, yeah, it was just a good showing from Sarge. But, I wouldn't. That doesn't tell me anything about Elise Reed, and it doesn't tell me anything about Sajara Eubanks. So we haven't learned anything apart from maybe Sajara Eubanks can make 125, which I wasn't worried about either. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put that much money on her, right? A lot of people were talking about the weight cut. She missed it once, but she also made it twice in her career, right? So I guess she's older now, but I wasn't too worried about that. And she looked great on the scales. In fact, she looked very good on the scales and, smashed her opponent. Narco's saying it was a pretty spot-on card for me, other than Harnish. Would have been an absolute monster night if it wasn't for him. Yes, he fucked me as well. I would have won that. I think I would have won 10 units if it wasn't for him. So that's a bit of annoyed, but that's all good. Trent is saying one of the best, if not the best capper in the game. I still don't understand how you don't get more views. Everyone liked the video. Thank you, brother. Yes, everyone liked the video. I never, ever say that. Give me a thumbs up. I guess it helps the algorithm. So I hear every other YouTuber say. So I haven't looked into it, but I'm just believing them. I guess it does. Otherwise, they wouldn't say it, right? But thanks, Trent. I appreciate that. We'll be getting more views soon. Just got to, keep pumping out the content. I'm not the best with the content because obviously, and I do want to say, this is one thing I wanted to say. Sorry, I haven't been proactive with the podcast the last 2 weeks. I've missed it. Life gets in the way, but also I've just been focusing on tape. I had to watch a little bit more tape for some of the fighters I wasn't, I didn't get a read on initially. So it took me a bit longer. And then last week we had the 2 events. So that kind of pushed me back. We also had LFA as well, but I didn't take that. But we had 2 events. We had the Bellator and the UFC. So, sometimes I get a bit bogged down and haven't had time to do the podcast. Obviously, my number one priority is getting the bets out for me and my members and updating the website and doing the breakdown for the website. But I will be back on the podcast this week. There's 15 fights. And I may be making an appearance on someone else's podcast as well. I will announce that in due time. But yes, shout out to Liam, my guy. Glad to see you cash it. We both cashed in on that parlay, so that's good. Matthew Heinisch was really disappointed. Very, very disappointed. But we'll get to that. All right, so the next fight, Julio Arce versus Andre Ewell. Great showing by Julio Arce. He looked all the minus 200 he was. Andre Ewell looked like he didn't really belong to be in there, in my opinion. Like he never really threatened at all. Caught Arce with like one shot over 10 minutes it was on, or 8 minutes or whatnot. So any bets I had on this card fight, I had Julio Arce to win in round 3. Anytime you're fighting Andre Ewell, you bet the round 3 prop against him. Anytime you bet on Billy Quarantillo, you bet the round 3 prop for him. We bet Chris Gutierrez in round 3 against Andre Ewell last time. Very, very close. You go back and watch that fight. It's ridiculously close to getting stopped. Doesn't bet the round 3 prop this time. He gets the round 2 stoppage. I always knew I said it in my video breakdown. If you remember, you can go back on the website and watch it. I haven't took it down yet. I said that Arce is live for a finish anytime in any round in this fight, right? He's live for a finish in round 1, live for a finish in round 2. So hindsight, should I have took the inside the distance? Yes. Was it a great number like plus 1,600? No. Would I have had to increase my exposure to get some decent return? Yes. I don't really like, just me personally, I don't like playing bets when I'm going to win half a unit or like, a quarter of a unit. Like I don't like doing that, right? I like to at least win a unit and obviously potentially win more than that, right? There is sometimes I'll play a bet where I'll win 3/4 of a unit, but you'll never see me play a bet where I'll just win half a unit, right? That's just my style of betting. Everyone has a different staking structure. Everyone has a different sizing structure. This has been very good for me, very good to me over the years. So I stick with it. And, Julio Arce inside the distance, it was under plus 300. So, and I don't like laying a lot of money on props, like specific props, unless I'm very confident, right? As you will see later on in the card, if they're not a massive number, right? If it's like plus 600 or more, then okay, like I'll lay it and I don't really mind laying a smaller number because you don't have to put that much on to win a lot back, right? But when it's like plus 200 for an inside the distance play, unless you're supremely confident, I don't like playing it. I'd rather take the money line, right? Because you never know, it squeaks to decision. But every matchup is different, and you have to, because I will talk about that later where I didn't do that. But every matchup is different, I guess. In this matchup specifically, I just thought that I don't know. I just thought Arce, would be coming on very, very strong in that third round if it got there. It didn't get there. I took a half a unit shot. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It is what it is. Obviously, if he did survive that, he only had like a minute more to survive. If he did, highly likely he gets a stoppage in round 3, right? Because Andre Ewell's tiring. And, so on another day that cashes, it is what it is. Shout out to Julio Arce. Probably going to be a solid addition to that 135 division. He's a big guy. So the next fight, Mickey Gall versus Jordan Williams. Yeah, Mickey Gall kind of ran through Jordan Williams here. Was a little bit surprised. I didn't really take this fight much. Didn't really have a strong lean when I initially went into it. Wasn't really caring about this fight in terms of a betting perspective. So kind of just passed on the fight. Well, I did pass. I didn't have any bets on the fight. One thing that intrigued me before tape was like the over, but then I was like, oh, I don't really know. It might be like firework fight type thing, even though both guys are tough. Glad I didn't go for that, obviously, because it got stopped in round 1. That would have been a bad look. But yeah, man, shout out to Mickey Gall. Jordan Williams, tough guy, but when Mickey Gall's on your back, he's dangerous as fuck, man. So not too much to say about this fight, but I will say that Mickey Gall has been in the UFC since 1-0, and he's still here. He's like 7-3 now, so he's had 9-10 fights in the UFC, and his second pro fight was in the UFC. So it's not an easy road that he's had. He's been thrown in the fire from an 1-0 fighter. So shout out to Mickey Gall. I think there's some respect should be put on his name. The next fight, worst bet of the night for me by far. Ian Harnish versus Sandhagen Imarvov. So I guess my thinking coming into this was that Imarvov was embarrassed in the clinch against Hawes in his last fight. Couldn't get off the fence. Spent multiple minutes there, 3-4 minutes. As soon as he was off the fence, he hurt Hawes in round 2 and round 3 because he does have power, and then also Hawes is chinny, and his durability and his cardio isn't the best. And I actually bet Sandhagen Imarvov as like a plus 140 underdog in that fight. And what it told me was that, okay, he can be clinched very easily, right? So I thought Ian Heinisch would be able to clinch him up against the fence, which he did a couple of times, but Imarvov was basically able to get off. I will say Ian Heinisch looked off from like the beginning bell. I don't know if anything, if there was something wrong with him or whatnot, but it doesn't fucking matter. But that is a read that I saw on the fight. As soon as the fight started happening, I was like, he just looks a little bit slow, a little bit labored. It's hard to explain, but I don't know if that means anything, but that is something I saw. But obviously Heinisch wasn't maybe he's just not as strong as Hawes in the clinch. Hawes is a very, very strong guy, decent wrestler, but very powerful. He's very athletic in that way. But I did think Heinisch would be able to employ that game plan more than he did. And I don't think he got one takedown. I thought at least to get a takedown. I mean, I think he's got a takedown in every single one of his fights, right? But I guess this time he was going against a striker who was literally just trying to avoid the takedowns at all costs, as opposed to some of the fighters he's fought. They don't mind playing in the grappling, Amari, Gastelum, these people, they're well-rounded. So they kind of play in all assets of the game, where Imarvov isn't that well-rounded. So he really tries to avoid it. And I guess someone trying to really avoid it against Heinisch, it kind of threw him off, right? Which was a wrong read. I didn't think, my read was that wasn't the case. My read was that because he's a pure striker, he'll be able to get him down easier than the grapplers. But in fact, the read potentially should have been, because he's a pure striker, he's just going to completely avoid the clinch, completely avoid the grappling. Whereas the reason why Heinisch was able to have some limited success against grapplers in the past were because, well, not grapplers, but MMA fighters in the past, was because they was more willing to play in the grappling, right? So it's like I was looking at it one way, but in fact, it looks like Harnish's success in the grappling, albeit limited in you know, he's got to take down in, I think, every single one of his fights, and he's attempted like 5 or 6 in every one of his fights. The reason why he was able to have success was because people would oblige him a little bit more, right? My read was, oh, he's had success against these guys, and these guys are way better grapplers than Imarvov. He should be able to have success against Imarvov, but it didn't turn out like that, right? So a very interesting lesson that I can learn from this, potentially add that to my arsenal moving forward. When I'm betting, I can, you know, use that read in another way. Hopefully it's in my betting book. It's in my mind now. So hopefully that can help me improve my process in the future. But also it shouldn't take away from my current process, which have served me for the last, you know, 6 years since I've been betting on MMA, which is, you know, if a fighter's fighting a pure striker and they've always fight grapplers, then a lot of times they will be able to get the takedowns. But it's just another way of looking at it, right? It's an alternate way of looking at it. So anyway, the next fight, Brendan Allen, Punahele Soriano. Now, we just went from the worst bet on the card, and I think this was one of my best bets on the card, although it didn't cash, right? Which is quite strange to say. But as you guys know, we're doing this professionally. We're not doing this for a hobby on the side for fun. So the difference between that, one of the main differences, is that we look for probability and value, and we look for the long-term angle, right? We don't look for the short wins. We don't care if the bet wins or loses. We care about how good our read was on that bet. If we're having good reads on the bets, whether they win or lose, long-term they will win, right? If you're having bad reads, but your bets are winning and winning, long-term you won't win, right? So we're always looking for the reads as opposed to the bets. Even though the bets can affect us emotionally, we try to not let that affect us emotionally, because then it will change our process. And if our reads are correct, that means our process is correct, and we will win long-term, right? So I think that my read on this fight was good, because I bet Brendan Allen to win in round 2 and round 3, plus 650 and plus 1,000. Now, I definitely made some mistakes, you know, because it wasn't a perfect bet, because at the end of the day, it did go to decision. I didn't think Punahele would last. So that, one of my reads that were wrong in this fight, is that I didn't think Punahele would last once Brendan Allen, if Brendan Allen made it through that first round. I thought Brendan Allen would wear on Punahele. He did wear on Punahele, and Punahele, at the end of the second round, I was like fairly confident that that third round, you know, Punahele was going to get stopped there. Obviously, he came out in the third round and looked better than the second round, which means he has great recoverability. He had a second wind in between that second and third round. It's also a very big mental thing. He's obviously very tough mentally. He's like, fuck this. I've only got 5 more minutes. I'm just going to push through. And then obviously a physiological thing as well. The guy's an athlete. The guy can recover well. He's obviously, his training helps him do that. So bad read on that side. But I'm very happy with the read overall. You know, a lot of people bet Punahele. A lot of people bet Puna KO. I think I always knew Brendan Allen had a good chin. Sean Strickland, he didn't knock him out of one punch, which Puna likes to do. It was an accumulation type knockout, right? So it was a constant jabs. It was little shots to the stomach. It was like pull back, little counters, constant getting touched up, right? That's not Punahele's game. Punahele is swing for the bleachers. And if he catches you, you might go out. But Brendan's got a good chin in general, right? He took that huge knee from Chris Daukaus. Or was it him kneeing Chris Daukaus? I think he took that huge knee from Chris Daukaus, right? And he ate it like nothing. So I knew he had a good chin. Obviously, I did think Punahele could knock him out in the first round. But if he didn't, I really thought Brendan Allen would come on strong, which I was right about. So, yeah, look, we didn't cash that bet. But I do think on another day, or like if this was another fighter I had that read on, it does cash. And also another day, he doesn't recover in round 3. So I'm happy that we played the round 2 and round 3 props on Brendan Allen there. Yeah, and it is what it is. Shout out to Brendan. He looked a lot better. I will say he looked very more process driven. I was shocked that Brendan didn't shoot takedowns. I will say that. I did think that in the second, third round, when Pula was gassed, he would start to try and potentially trip him up, get on the back somehow, front headlock, like something like that. And I also had another read, which was that Puna may start going for takedowns if he was gassed, right? Which he didn't do. I guess he was clever. He was smart. He knew Brendan Allen was tough. He knew Brendan Allen was a good jiu-jitsu fighter, so he didn't shoot for takedowns for that reason. So clever on Puna. nothing in tape suggested that he would know that, right? Because when he got tired against Pickett, he was shooting takedowns. So I kind of thought once he gets tired, he might start shooting takedowns, and then Brendan Allen's going to capitalize. And I do think Brendan Allen would have got him out there if Puna started shooting takedowns in round 2 and round 3 when he was tired. But he didn't, and we move on. The next bet, so this was I believe this was the second most money I've ever had on a fighter this year. So this was Adrian Yanez against Randon Costa. I had 10.3 units on Adrian Yanez overall. So I had him on that parlay I mentioned earlier, 7.5 units on Sajara Eubanks. And then I also put 3.3 units on Adrian Yanez's inside the distance play at minus 110. So I was very, very confident in Adrian Yanez to win this fight. I will say that first round was a motherfucker, but it's always going to be a motherfucker when you're fighting Randy Costa. The guy is a one-round fighter. He's got 5 minutes of gas. I will say that he looked better in the boxing than I thought he would. I didn't think he'd be piecing up Yanez with the jab as much as he was. I mean, that jab was a thing of beauty. One of the best jabs we've seen. I mean, not all round, but like at least in that first round, one of the best jabs we've seen in MMA for a long time. I mean, just the way it was pinging off Yanez's head, it was so crazy. You know, I didn't think he would do that much damage to Yanez, but I did know Yanez would have to come through some storm in round 1, right? Anyone will know that if they watch the fight. They watch Randy's tape, right? It's not a crazy take I had. I just knew that Yanez is the much more calm fighter. He would be the one pulling away after round 1. I also thought that he had the power advantage, which I think was evident. I also think he had the chin advantage, which was evident, right? He had the much more time in the octagon. He had like 2 hours in the octagon, right? Or in MMA, whereas Randy Costa had something crazy like 15 minutes or something, right? So this was a very clear outcome for me. And although some people might be watching this and going, yeah, but you know, he really hurt him in that round 1. 90 to 95% of the time these guys fight, Yanez knocks him out. Trust me when I'm saying that, okay? I know Costa hurt him, right? Costa was destroying him in that round 1. It looked like a mismatch in that round 1, right? But that's Costa's MO. That's his game. It happens in every fight we've seen, extended 2 fights now. Every other fight, he gets the knockout. He doesn't knock Yanez out, right? It's very unlikely he gets that knockout. Obviously, it can happen. Maybe not 95%, that's going too overboard, but I reckon about 85% of the time these guys fight, right, Yanez knocks him out in round 2 or like to the end of that round 1. Yanez has got a crazy, crazy chin. My read on this fight, the reason I put 10.3 units on this kid overall is because I knew that he would still be there once Randy Costa starts tiring, right? So although optically it looks like, fuck, Yanez, you know, just about made it, that's not actually correct, because Yanez would just about make it like 85% of the time, right? He got hit with a lot of shots in this fight, and he still didn't even get wobbled at one point. He didn't get hurt. He didn't look close to being knocked out in this fight, right? So if Randy's landing all them shots and he didn't even look close to being knocked out, then what's it going to take? What does Randy have to do to knock him out, right? The guy's got an absolute crazy chin, and I just expected him to weather storm, knock Costa out. It's funny, although the fight went exactly how I predicted, it was still a sweaty fight, right? Because it's happening in real time, it's live, he's getting hit with shots, you're like, oh my God, he's getting pieced up, you know. But anyway, he knocks him out. Very, very predictable fight, probably the most predictable fight on the card, other than Elkins and Minna, which I also cashed on. So yeah, man, shout out to Adrian Yanez, Dr. Pepper, done his thing there. The next fight, Miranda Maverick, Macy Barber. I wasn't looking at this one crazy either. I don't know why. I think I was sending an email or some shit. I saw Miranda Maverick win the first round easy, and I guess this was a crazy robbery, right? Because I think Macy Barber won the third round clear. Miranda Maverick won the first round clear. So it comes around to that second round, and that's the one I kind of half missed. But that second round was extremely clear. From what I hear, I think it was, you know, one of the worst robberies on the card. Although I will say the Kyler Phillips one. So I didn't see the second. I mean, you can't really get worse than the Kyler Phillips robbery, in my opinion. And I'll go into that later. Like, there's not really a world where it can be worse, because it's like impossible. It can't be a 10-8. So, you know, you can get like on par, but you can't get worse, in my opinion, because as I say, it's impossible. It's not a 10-8. But anyway, I'll get to that. So look, shout out to anybody on Miranda Maverick, I guess. Yeah. But it depends what line you got, right? Because I know she was up to like minus 175 at points. So, I mean, if it comes down to one round, minus 175, you don't really want that to happen. And obviously, Macy Barber. But look, Macy Barber, she comes on strong in that third round. She needs to just start a little bit earlier because she always wins the third round. She done it in her last fight, done it in this fight. She needs to. I think she needs to like impose herself on fighters more because she's a fucking strong fighter. If she kind of just was like, fuck this, I'm just going to go forward. I'm going to get hit, but I'm just going to put it on you a bit more than she does. I think she could get like a lot more wins in this division. But anyway, she got a win, right? So, yeah, not much to say about this. Unlucky to Maverick bettors because it's always fucking annoying when you get robbed, right? But I will say that if you've been in this game long enough, the robberies always go on your side. You get lots of robberies, you get lots of robberies against you, so it doesn't really matter. You can't really cry robbery this, robbery that, because the law of averages, the law of probability says that you will get loads of robberies on your side, right? But obviously in the moment when it happens, it's fucking annoying. It's happened to me hundreds of times over the years since I've been betting on MMA. But I've also got 100s of luck, right? I had Pete Yan to win in round 4 and 5 at like plus third. I had like plus 3,000 against Aljamain Sterling. I always remember that one, right? And that would have cashed me like 8 units or something crazy like that, right? And I've had obviously loads of others, like ridiculous robberies. I had Andrea Lee against Laura Murphy back in the day, 30-27 on, I don't know, just so many. So what you have to do, anyone on Maverick who's listening to me now, anyone who bet Maverick, unlucky, compose yourself, deep breath, move on to the next. It will bounce back in your favor. Promise you. Don't let it get you down. You will be back. I know it's hard when you got money on the line, but it's going to bounce back in your favor. You're going to get a lucky bounce, right? And then you're going to be really happy and you're going to be like, fuck, we got let off the hook there. So just stick with it and you'll be good. The next fight, Darren Elkins, Darrick Minner. Yes. So I had the fight doesn't go to decision here. I gave this out as a free bet on my I had this out as a free bet on my Twitter. So if anyone got on the free bet, congratulations. This was an easy bet, but I didn't lay so it was minus 125. I put 1.25 units on it to win one. I should have put more on it. I was very confident this fight doesn't go to decision. I thought Darrick could get him early, but if not, Elkins will definitely get him late. Obviously, people were buying into that James Krause hype. Like Darrick Minner's changed fighter now. Guys, when the guy's got 30-something fights of basically kill or be killed, and then he's got one fight of going a distance, don't all of a sudden think he's a gone a distance fighter just because he changed camp, right? It's very unlikely that he's changed 30 fights worth of things. So, this is why I talk about the outside the octagon stuff is very, very secondary when it comes to fighting, right? What you want to do is you want to watch tape and basically make your decisions off that. Because if you buy into the he's gone to James Krause now, he's a change fighter, then that can basically steer you off a bet of Darren Elkins or put you on a bet of Darrick Minner, right? And we just haven't seen it in tape. We haven't seen him last apart from one fight against Charles Rosa, where Charles Rosa was given fucking no offense, no defense, like only defense. He was given nothing back. So that's why I cashed on this bet. The fight doesn't go to decision. Good way to play it, in my opinion. Anyone on Elkins, great bet, obviously. Plus money. Shout out to you guys. Not much to say about this, man. Damage is an absolute legend. Yeah, Raulian Paiva versus Kyler Phillips. Yeah, so, I mentioned that this fight was a robbery. Of course it was a robbery. I don't think there's any... there's definitely no argument against it, right? I did see... It's crazy because, I saw, quite a few different takes on this fight, and I'm like, guys, are you joking? So the first round is 10-8, of course, right? The first round is 10-8, if not 10-7. So the first round is way closer to a 10-7 than a 10-9. The guy was dead. Like I thought the fight would be stopped because I saw, Piver didn't get up to his stool after he got hurt that much. He didn't get on his stool. He sat on the floor for the whole minute or however long they get in between rounds. So I thought it was going to be stopped because I saw Piver go at one point, like, I thought he was like waving the fight off, right? But I think he was just saying, "Oh, I'm okay," or something like that. Unbelievable amount of punishment he took in that first round. Arguably should have been stopped right at the end, but he let him see the bell. So, I mean, that's a clear 10-8, right? Obviously, 10-7s are basically never given out, but way closer to a 10-7 than a 10-9. But two judges gave it a 10-9, which is like, that's so crazy to me. And then the second and third rounds, I thought they were close. I definitely thought they were close. But yeah, I guess everyone's saying they were clear Piver rounds. So I'm gonna say they were Piver rounds. So that's a clear draw, right? But yeah, I mean, I don't really understand how that's crazy robbery, right? It's a clear draw, but they give it to Piver. Now, don't mistake that with what I'm going to say next. Piver was the side all day. Like if you bet Piver, that is the side. Like I didn't have any bets on this fight, right? And I'm kicking myself. I should have bet Piver now. But when they start to get over plus 200, plus 220, plus 230, you kind of just have to auto bet him, man, because he shouldn't have been a 27% implied or what he was. Do you know what I mean? Like he definitely had like a 40% chance to win this fight. Yeah, I got to go. I can't stay too long on this podcast now, but I do think that Piver has lots of disadvantages in this bantamweight division. Even though he won this fight, I don't think it was because he really suited the bantamweight division. I think it was more because Phillips was completely gassed trying to kill him, and he almost did kill him. But yeah, shout out to anyone on Piver. Definitely a great bet there. But like, let's get one thing straight. That fight was a daylight robbery, right? That has nothing to do with what was a good bet or bad bet, right? But just objectively, the decision, clear robbery. But it is what it is. And in this next fight, this wasn't a robbery, all right? So that was a robbery. Phillips and Piver, right? Miranda Maverick, Macy Bauer, that's a robbery. TJ Cory, that's not a robbery, right? It's a fucking close fight. Now, I think I scored it 3-2 to Cory, but then I was like, actually, no, maybe it's 3-2 TJ. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to score it. Like, I don't know, right? So I'm just gonna have to rewatch it. Look, TJ looked great on his comeback. I didn't think he looked that good. I didn't have any bets on this fight. It's not a good long-term angle to bet these fights where you don't know much about. Like, for example, probably people thought I was a bit crazy last week when I said I don't think Miesha Tate was a good bet, like after the fact, right? She dominated her opponent and won in round 3. And I said that wasn't a good bet, right? Like minus 130 or whatever. People will probably be like, James, what the fuck are you smoking? It wasn't a good bet. She smoked her opponent. Of course it was a good bet. We're not talking about one-offs, right? We're talking about long-term angles. You want to bet fighters coming back off pregnancies, off desk jobs, 5 years away from the octagon, then you be my guest. Yeah, you might win again. You might win on Miesha Tate this time, but long term you won't win that angle. So I don't like betting on fighters who have been away from the octagon for more than 2 years and been through certain things. TJ had been through very, very invasive surgeries, right? People sometimes don't come back from knee surgeries and stuff. Sometimes people never come back the same. And he was coming back from the EPO ban, right? So who knows if he's been on that for his whole life? Is he taking that anymore? And then he was away from the octagon for 2.5 years. And he's like 37 years old. If you want to bet on that as a long-term angle, be my guest. You might win on TJ. You won't win long-term, right? Now, that being said, this time, I guess TJ was a good bet because TJ has mixed it with the best his whole career. He had the clear edge in the grappling against Cory. And because the line was where it was, TJ was like plus 170 at one point. Miesha Tate's like minus 130. Then, yeah, I do say that TJ is probably a good bet because even if you call it a 50-50 fight, then, like you call it a 50-50 fight when they're at their prime. And then you say, okay, because they're not at their prime now, maybe TJ should be like plus 150 or something, right? You give Sandhagen the edge there, Sandhagen. But then if TJ is going up get about above plus 150, then we're getting into more probability. And then I could potentially say, yeah, fair enough. If he's more than plus 150, even though there's lots of question marks, you can give him the shot because of the line, right? It's all about the line, right? These guys could, like TJ could be away for fucking 15 years, but if I'm getting plus 800, I'll probably still bet it. Do you know what I mean? It's all about the line, right? So it's the line and then obviously everything else. So definitely, I think anything above plus 150 was a good bet on TJ, but long term, I don't really at all like the angle of betting short favorites or short underdogs, when they've been away and when they've gone through all of the craziness TJ had gone through. But yeah, Cory looked good in that fight. Obviously, Cory landed a little bit more damage, like he was pinging TJ's head more, but TJ was consistently aggressing. TJ had a lot more cage control, a lot more octagon control. TJ obviously had grappling success at times. He landed heavy ground and pound, I think, twice in that fight. Obviously, TJ was also landing some big shots after Cory, like spun and stuff. He would land a couple of shots. So, you know, it was a fucking close fight, you know, and anyone screaming robbery, like, I don't know, man. I think this fight could have gone either way. The judges thought it could have gone either way. And yeah, I mean, not much to say about this one. There was a lot of talk about the judges in this card, but I really think it only comes into play on the Barber fight and the Piper fight. I don't think the Sandhagen Dillashaw was necessarily wrong, although the way TJ got the scorecard was completely wrong because they gave him the fourth round or one judge or something, which gave him the fight, which was bad. But just in general, so you can definitely talk about that. But the actual overall scorecards, I don't think. Yeah, I think TJ definitely deserved to win that fight. But then I also think Cory deserved, and it could have gone to anyone. So that's it, really. Overall, I won 6.6 units on the card. It takes us to, I think, 82 units on the year so far. We're not even finished July yet. Or there's no more cards in it, but like we're not even in August yet, and we're already up 82 units. I won 60 units last year, and I was extremely happy with that. Made a lot of money doing that. A lot of my members, all of my members were extremely happy with winning 60 units, and we've already won 82 units this year, which is, I still can't believe it, to be honest. It's absolutely crazy, but it's just me putting in the work. And yeah, we're just going to keep on grinding, keep putting that tape research in. I've already got a free unit bet, which is a decent size bet for me on the following card. So if you did want to get that bet, instant access to it, you can sign up on the website. Links in the bio right now. Check my results page. Everything's third-party tracked. I cannot fake my record. I'll just hit up the chat quickly before I leave. If you want to say anything, hit me up quick, and then I'll get out of it. Liam saying, slick parlay. He lacked my confidence, but shared your reads. The record lives on. 25-0. We're looking to go 26-0 next time out. Matthew Moore saying, you're exactly right. He had Maverick, but then he had Piper decision. So the luck goes both ways. Exactly. So you got robbed, and then the robbery got given to you. And obviously, this will happen long term, right? So even if someone is listening to this and you had Maverick, but you didn't have Piper decision, you will have another one like Piper decision in the future. Just stick with it. But first, you might get another robbery go against you. You might get 5 robberies go against you. But if you're in it for 10 years, you'll get another 5 go for you in the long term. So it's always important to think about the long-term view in this game. Matthew Moore saying he had Elkins round 2 and round 3 and Minna round 1. Amazing way of playing it. A way I thought of playing it as well. Instead of that, I was just like, I'll just fucking play the under and not fucking worry. And if Minna death gasses in round 1 and Elkins finishes him, fuck it. If Minna somehow locks a mad submission in round 2, fuck it. But great way of playing it. But I just like, let me save myself the headache and go for the under. But congrats, because you obviously cashed there, and probably a decent plus number, plus 600 or something, I would say. Elkins round 2, maybe. But look, that's it, guys. Appreciate everyone listening in today. I'll be back with my podcast. I'll do my best to get that out. 15 fights, so a lot to choose from, a lot to tape to do. But yeah, if you want to sign up again, you know where to go, and you'll definitely get all of my information, my breakdowns and my bets. But I'm going to do my best to come out with the free content with the podcast in the coming days. So thanks for listening, and see you on the other side.